The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to another stocked and loaded episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important hobby news, discussions, debates, opinions, info, and interviews with key hobby and sports dignitaries. Also, if you're good, you know we are going to give away something. Now, here's the guy that wanted the cards more than the gum. John Newman.
What is up? Episode 145. Glad to be back. Hope everyone is doing well. Did my first card show as a dealer in 2 years this past weekend, or just one day, Sunday. Did very well. Pleased with the outcome. I'm not going to go into details with it. I'm actually on Monday's Hobby Quick Hits. That episode will be dedicated to that experience this past weekend. So I'll save all the details for Monday's Hobby Quick Hits. Check that out if you will. Great guest on today's show. Matter of fact, the interview went so well. We talked for a while, got to be very long. And so rather than do one long giant episode, which I don't always like to do, we're going to break it up into two parts. So this will be part one of my conversation with Corey Donovan, but you may know him more affectionately as YamWax. And so this week, this episode and next episode will be that conversation. I'll split it up, and we talk about a lot of different things, what he does too, in finding some obscure first appearances by musicians, actors, actresses, and does a great job. One of the most unselfish guys, in the hobby. You notice a trend. I have a lot of those type of folks on the show. People who are great ambassadors and advocates for the hobby, that give a lot of themselves, and Yam fits that description perfectly. Happy to have him on. He was on Breaking Bad with myself and Dr. James Beckett 2 months ago, but I wanted to have him on to talk about him and his hobby background. So here he is today, and not only this week, but we'll get some more YamWax next week as well. So with that being said, without further ado, let's get this thing started.
Hello, fellow sports card collectors. This is Justin Christian from North Reading, Massachusetts, and I'm here to announce this week's product release schedule. Here it is. Friday, September 17, 2021, 2020-2021 Donruss Optic Basketball Hobby. Wednesday, September 22nd, 2021, 2021 Wild Card Mat Football Mega, 2021 Historic Autographs Ink Threads, and 2021 Bowman Chrome Baseball. For Friday, September 24, 2021, 2021 Bowman Chrome Baseball Light, 2020-2021 Pro Set Memories Hockey, 2021 Topps Gold Label Baseball, 2021 Pro Set Metal Football, and 2021 Onyx Vintage Basketball. And that's it for this week. Thank you, John, for giving me the opportunity to go through this week's list. Let me turn it back to the star of the Sports Card Nation podcast, John Newman.
I know the chunky that left these chunkies. Newman! Open the door, Newman. I know you're in there. Hello,
Sports Card Nation. All right, it's time for Newman's Rambling, where I select one question I get each week and answer it on the air.
John, you seem like an astute man.
Thank you, Mr. Walken.
Maybe you can help explain something to me.
Well, I'll give it my best shot. All right, on this week's Newman Ramblings, although I think I'm going to change the name of this segment to Ask Newman Anything, because that's really what it is. I take a question that I'm asked by either individual person or kind of a question I get asked by a few different people, all the same question. And that's the question this week. I got asked by 3 or 4 people on social media, via DM, like, why didn't you go to the industry summit? I didn't go. Looked like everyone had a great time. I do plan on going to the industry summit. Maybe not every year. I don't know if it's an every year thing for me, but it's a pretty cool event. Full disclosure, I did plan on going this year, earlier this year, but just some things happened in my regular life, if you will, with a job and just finances, and my stepbrother dying in June, and making the Dallas trip, then Chicago, and it just couldn't pull it off as much as I wanted to, and so it didn't happen. But a great event, great networking, B2B type event. Something I do want to do again. Like I said, maybe not every year. It's would be an expensive trip to do every year, and you get in those 4-figure trips, right? I like to buy cards, and the way I analyze finances when it comes to the hobby stuff is, bang for your buck, so to speak, and it's a 4-figure trip, and I could buy some cards with that, and you get cards there, and they did a card show this year, so props to that. I'm not saying you can't get cards, but when you factor in what it costs to attend, and the hotel, and then expenses on top of that, airfare, I figured it out. For me, it would have been about $1,500 to $2,000, and that's really without purchasing any cards. And you do get a swag bag with some really cool items when you do attend the industry summit. Some UFC guys were there signing autographs. You get those. So definitely fun, exciting. I do plan on going. I just couldn't swing it this year with losing my job, death in the family, and some other things going on. So it's on my to-do list, and we'll see what next year brings. I am starting a new job, so we'll see. I can't make a lot of travel plans until that sort of settles out, and see how that goes. So, but saw a lot of social media stuff from it. A great event. Another thing for me is I know, not that I don't want to meet him at person, but I just met and talked with a lot of the folks that are going to be at the industry summit. I just saw them in Chicago. So, when I talk to them, whether it's via phone or text, already. So it's always great to network, but I've been doing this, not the podcast, but I've been in the hobby a long time. The podcast now, we're approaching our 3rd year, and 3rd complete year. And so, you make a lot of those connections already. So it's not a top priority. I already have a lot of those connections made. But it's a great event. I do plan on going. It just didn't work out this year.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group, or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
It's time for the Hobby What's Up, where we go around the hobby world and tell you all the latest news and breaking stories from the hobby we love.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
All right, I think we're seeing our first big release in terms of NIL effect on cards. For those that don't know what NIL is, that's name, image, and likeness. And the 2021 Onyx release is out, and you're seeing some college athletes in the product, and you're seeing autos. Spencer Rattler, Bryce Young, and others. And so it's going to bring up the dilemma. Here's something to think about. What will be considered, rookie cards now? It could be those cards. We're the guests we have on this very show, we talk about the first appearance of celebrities, musicians on cardboard or stickers as their first appearance. Comic books, right? First appearance, comic books are worth more. Now, cards sort of makes up their own sort of rules. We know with Bowman and baseball that some cards that were out before rookie cards aren't considered rookies. But it's going to be interesting with the name, image, and likeness if the first releases are viewed as, desirable rookie first cards. So, we'll see. This thing's again in the early stages with the NIL just occurring basically this year. In a segment that we're doing all too frequently now. Matter of fact, I saw at the summit they did a roundtable based on robberies in the hobby. It's becoming that prevalent. Well, now we have a armed robbery, meaning this person came into the store with a brandishing a weapon and robbed it during business hours. And so now it's become even more brazen. This happened in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Not super far from here. Not close, but not super far. Waniata Cards. I don't know if I'm saying that. Waniata Cards in Altoona, Pennsylvania. A gentleman about 6 feet tall came in, brandished a weapon, had the people in the store go into a bathroom, locked them in there, and took some merchandise and took the cash. And so now, it's went to that next level. Most of these burglaries and have been when the store's been closed, break through the glass, crash through the ceiling, and now we're just coming during business hours with weapons and robbing places. And so it's a scary time, any business, but the way the cards have boomed and become a main story on financial networks, like everybody knows cards are have crescendoed and went to different levels. Even people who know I do cards think I'm like a multi-millionaire now. Obviously, that's not true, but that's really the perception of things. And so to own a store in today's day and age, I used to own a store back in the day, but it's a whole different ball game. So, be careful out there. 2021 Topps Fire is out, except it's a Target exclusive, meaning it's only going to be acquired through Target online, or if your Target does still put product on the shelf, can't get it any other way. And happy to say, show alumnus Tyson Beck has designed the cards once again. Anybody recognize that cheesy song from 1986? Well, if you're older like me and a Mets fan like me, you probably do. That's the 1986 Let's Go Mets song. Did not win a Grammy, let's just say that. But the reason I segued with that song is the 86 Mets won a World Series, obviously. But Topps is doing the Once Upon a Time in Queens set based off the 4-part ESPN show featuring the 1986 Mets. It's a 40-card set. There'll be 10 cards in each set. There are parallels and color cards as well. And they have an autographed order. Everything's sold out, so you're going to have to get it on the secondary market. But they have autographed cards, spin-off from the show. 3 people there. By the way, there are autographed cards in the potential autographed cards in the sets as well, as far as players go, like Strawberry and the players. But they did sell some spin-off autographs of Jimmy Kimmel, Uncle Sal Icano. They are the directors of the 4-part miniseries on ESPN, and a Mike Tyson auto, which depicts him with some Mets starter jacket, a hat, and punching, fake punching Dwight Gooden in the face as Darryl Strawberry looks on. There are different parallel colored levels to the autos for sale. Funny story or personal story. So I went to Dallas a few months back, 3 months, 4 months ago now. Can't remember exactly. And one of the things on my list to try to acquire was a Mike Tyson auto. Big Mike Tyson fan, Brooklyn Knight like myself, baddest man on the planet. I don't support everything he did, but as a boxer, is legendary. I think that goes without saying. Did not come get one in Dallas. Went to the National with that on as one of the cards on my list I would like to get, and did not get one at the National. And then saw these, luckily in time, and was able to procure the green parallel number to 99 Mike Tyson auto. So I finally took a little bit, but I got my Mike Tyson auto. Well, I don't have it yet, but I ordered my Mike Tyson auto. And what's cool, it's going to have him in Mets gear. So even better. It was kind of meant to be, so to speak. So can't wait till that gets here. I know on the Topps website it said could be between 100 and 120 days. That is 3 to 4 months if you do the math. So going to be a little wait till I get that card here in my hands. But it's nice knowing that it's going to get here at some point. Did not go to the industry summit, but I lived vicariously through some friends and social media postings from people who did. And one of the things that came out is Panini used the summit to highlight the brand of UFC, which they're building probably their brand around. Had some of the fighters there signing autographs. They did not answer any questions pertaining to current events, I'm being told. And on the Topps front, they are re-upping a partnership that's been 6 years so far that's going to continue. That's UEFA Soccer, UEFA, men and women's. So there we'll keep producing the UEFA Soccer line. I know for some Montgomery Club special offerings were through those that actually did very well on the secondary market. Let's talk about some grading. Got to get some grading news in. SGC has announced their 20 to 25 day wait has moved to 45-50 days, but prices will remain intact. I will tell you this. My order that I sent in, I got back in about 25 days. So Peter will tell you they're going to get them out as fast as they can. They're just saying, give us a little. They like to under promise and over deliver, and they did that with my order. I got it back in about that 25 day span. Pleasantly surprised and happy with overall what I received. Beckett still behind, but has announced they have made up a little bit of ground on their backlog and would like to open some other lines of submissions once again, but they're just not ready to at the moment.
Sports Card Nation, it's now time to chop it up with our featured guest on the one-of-one card shop guest line. Let's go!
Happy to be joined by my next guest on Sports Card Nation again, although I will say again because he wasn't on Sports Card Nation. He was my first ever co-host on the Breaking Cardboard show, the once a month live show that we have started doing, 2 episodes into the books. But this gentleman was the first ever co-host along with our guest, Dr. Beckett. So he's never been on Sports Card Nation per se, but he's not unfamiliar. But thought it was time to have him on his own show with his own spotlight, just me and him. And I won't make him wait any longer. But Corey Donovan, more affectionately known as YamWax, welcome to Sports Card Nation.
Hey, John. Thanks, man. What a distinct honor to get to join the show, but especially to have been your first guest host and to do so with Dr. Beckett. When I got that call from you, it just floored me. And then, you told me that I couldn't tell anybody about it because, the show is not really announced yet. Dr. Beckett was going to be a surprise guest. I was at my kid's birthday party and I just wanted to tell somebody, but I didn't know if that meant like nobody, or just like nobody in the hobby. So I zipped it, but I was like, my knees were shaking.
Well, you passed the test. I just did that to see if I'm trustworthy. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's fun. One of the reasons I had you sort of keep it on the down low was because it was just so preliminary. I hadn't done it yet. I wanted to make sure, Dr. Beckett was a go. I know he gave me a verbal yes, but I just wanted to make sure everything was all the T's were crossed and the I's dotted. And you're a great person in this hobby and one of the first guys, honestly, when I was thinking of the format. And I wanted it to not just be me and a guest, but kind of 3 of us in there. And actually, the next Breaking Cardboard, I'll announce, is going to be about 5 guys. So
Wow.
a little teaser there. There's going to be a little bit of, speaking of wrestling, a little bit of Royal Rumble-ish, if you will, but be fun. So that the show can change. But when I came up with the idea that was really born out of, I don't want to even take the credit for it, Corey. It was a lot of other people saying, hey, we love the show. It comes out on Fridays. It's not live. Have you ever thought about, you do some special event live ones? Like for the episode 100, I did a live version of this. For another episode, I did another one. But they're like, why don't you do more of that? And I'm like, I heard a couple times that, and I'm like, I don't know. People are doing plenty of good stuff already in that niche, and then I got some more call for it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I don't want to do it every week. We got plenty of guys that are known for that. I'll just do it once a month, little one-off, if you will. And then, I thought, who's going to be the first guest? And I thought, man, it's a guy I've gotten to know very well. And, I call a friend. I'm like, I'm going to see if Dr. Jim will do it. And then when I was thinking, all right, we're going to go with the co-host format. I have just a few names on that list, and you're right, Dan. I said I'm going to get Yam on here. I think that just with Dr. Beckett, and I just I try to think of combos that sort of fit. Even with the second episode with Jeremy being a hockey guy predominantly, and Chris Carlin from Upper Deck, I try to do stuff that sort of makes sense and will sort of have better flow to it. I'm not sure I'm going to always get it necessarily right, but I try. And
well, it mixes it up in not contrast, but in addition to what you bring to the hobby. And you have such an incredible network due to this legendary output of content that you've created over the years, which I just have reverence for. But you mix that together with interesting co-hosts, and you can bring these people together. And I think and then you add the great comments. Like in our live that we did, we had some really supreme comments from the chat, and that just brings this other element into it. So it was like it was a really interesting combination of things. And like I said, it was just an honor, man. But no, I'm looking forward to talking today. Kind of getting in depth in that conversation. I tried to keep things a little bit evergreen, like where I could ask questions that anyone could go back and look back at that podcast and think this is some interesting questions to Dr. Beckett. But in this one, I know we're going to touch on some current topics, but also kind of get into
well, this is for you. Like that show, not that you can't talk about your a guest host can't interjects, and you did an awesome job with that. I love that. But I want, I knew then. I even told you we're going to have you on Sports Card Nation. I want to do a show where it's you're the guest and not the co-host necessarily. Not that I had a problem with that, but you also, I believe everyone should have their own light as well. With the comments, you make a great point with some of the comments from the chat. One thing I like about a live show, two things I like with doing that show is it's live, right? There's no take two, so you got to try to be on top of your game. It creates a little more, I don't want to say sense of urgency. That might be a little too dramatic, but you really got to be focused, and keeping an eye on the chats coming in, which ones you want to play off of and put on screen. And one thing, like the tagline of this show, the hobby is the people. I mean, all of us are an integral part of the hobby as a whole, as individual people. And so I love that interaction. I love, while someone may not be on the screen at the same time with me or you or anyone else, I want them to still feel like they're part of the dialogue, the discussion. It's not going to happen necessarily this as much on this show, being not live, but I do get a lot of feedback. That's good. But I wanted to do, in doing 2 episodes now, the one thing I do really, really enjoy is that interaction, seeing real time comments and reactions to things going on screen. And you don't get that when you tape interviews. We're doing this now. We're not going to, I'll get feedback after the show, which is, I welcome that and invite that all the time, 100%. But to get it in real time is something about that you can't sort of put a price tag on. I really enjoy, doing the show. Someone asked me, matter of fact, a few days ago, Corey, they're like, hey, are you going to do more? Like, are you going to do, like, are you going to go to two Fridays a month or 3? And I told them, no, I'm locked in one Friday. The only thing I could ever see happening if there's a schedule conflict where, let's say it's the second Friday of every month, I just can't do it that day. Something come up, or maybe move it, but it's still going to be once a month. It's just, we'll try to shoot for that second Friday. But I think, doing a lot of shows too. You mentioned some of the content. This show, I'm part of the Hobby Hotline crew, now Breaking Cardboard, Hobby Quick Hits, which is the Monday show that's just me, shorter, one topic. I just don't want, and we're going to talk about this with you too on the show. There's stuff outside of cards, outside of content that I still got to tend to and enjoy and leave time for. And so for me, that's really one of the reasons I probably didn't do that live show for as long as I did, even though certain people, were kind of requesting it. I kind of held off, and then I finally relented. I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
But once a month, I think, for me anyway, is going to be where I'll keep it at. And I always say, if it's bad or it doesn't get downloaded or no people are watching, then maybe it's 0 times a month. But go ahead. I
was just going to say it's smart. Once a month is really smart, John, I think. And, to jump in, you could always increase the volume if you wanted to, but once a month might be just right. But I also think, like, we do have our other obligations, but we're always seeking, at least something that's important for me, is seeking new adventures in the hobby. And that could be, a new player to collect, a new release of cards for your favorite player, your teams that you chase, but it's not just about the cardboard, and the plastic, right? Like, some of these adventures can be what we do in the hobby, how we operate, trying new things, maybe trying to sell on a new platform. And as a content creator like you, I imagine it's fun to keep it fresh, and to create this new show is, got to be part of that as well.
Yeah. I'm getting older, so anything that can keep me on my toes. And I mean, the hobby news cycle now, if that isn't keeping you on your toes, I don't know what will. I'm old enough to remember, Corey, years ago. I've said this, more than once on this show. You could go away for the hobby for a year, just literally drop your cards wherever you're standing, go away for a year, come back, and really not miss a whole heck of a lot and catch up rather quickly. You can't go away for 2 hours now and come back. You got to do a bunch of reading and research and this story and go down this rabbit hole. And the hobby's just changing quick. It keeps me kind of on my toes, which, like you said, it keeps it enjoyable. I don't necessarily like every story that happens, granted, but the news cycle, just in the volume that it happens and at the speed it happens in, it keeps me active, keeps me kind of focused, and can't rest on your laurels and take a real day off. So it's fun. It's fun, and it's a different hobby, but it's still a great hobby, like Dr. Beckett, who we talked about earlier, would say. And if you're not having fun in the hobby, like I always say myself, got to reassess what you're doing and maybe change it up. And nothing wrong with that. You can change it up. You've done that, I know, in your collecting style. We're to talk about some of that as well. I'm going to step aside for a quick break, but we'll be right back with more from YamWax.
What doesn't one of one card shop do? From box, case, and personal breaks, there's always fire being pulled. They offer bulk grading subs, and their large store located in Strongsville, Ohio, offers an incredible selection of sports cards, non-sports, and authentic autographed memorabilia. Steve and family will treat you right. Check them out on Instagram at One of One Card Shop or on the web at oneofonecardshop.com.
Sports Card Nation is back with YamWax. I know some of your hobby history from getting to know you, but for those maybe listening, McCoy, that maybe hearing you for the first time, the few that might be, kind of go like your background, how it began, kind of how you came back, and all that fun stuff.
Well, John, I looked back at all these incredible guests that you've had on the show, and I feel a little devoid. That you've got guys with amazing podcasts, you've got individuals working in the hobby, leading hobby companies, leading businesses, and different things like that. And I'm even owning, say, an LCS. I have none of that. But what I might represent to people is your classic dad who's come back into the hobby, that collected a kid. I'm in my mid 40s, and I came back and did all that. But I think for those that is like, oh, boring, we don't want to hear about the dads. I do have some interesting collecting angles that I've gone down that I think appeal to a wide variety of people. So we'll get there, guys. But for me, it's that I came back and I'm really enthusiastic about this hobby. I love it. And like you, it's all about the people and the community, the conversations. So I've just dove into all that. But let's go back to the 80s. I'm that classic kid buying, just opening packs, trying to find another Barry Bonds. And I love to just keep, some of these old cards raw like that, just because it brings back the memories, really, to just hold it.
Don't forget the smell. They still have a scent to them too. That takes you back.
They do, yeah. And this is Skinny Berry, right? So chasing the killer bees.
There is two different berries. I've said that. There's 7 5/8 berry, and then there's 7 1. That's hat size for you that don't get the inside joke. But go ahead.
Oh, totally, man. And so I'm not even a baseball collector anymore. I did hit that 1990s 4 strike, and I got to middle school in the early 90s and sort of dipped out of the hobby quite a bit, but I still collecting a little, and then the strike just kind of wiped me out. I never really have gone to baseball. There's some exciting young players exciting me these days, but this was my guy, Kirby Puckett, and this is the first single that I ever bought, this exact card. It's still in that yellowed old top loader, all cracked and beaten up. I always keep that on my desk because that to me was one of my happiest days. I got to go to an LCS for the first time instead of just buying packs at my little local drugstore. And this had to be the one, the Kirby Puckett rookie, because I'm from Minneapolis and he's a god here, and won the World Series, a couple of them with us and stuff. So that was fun. This is another kind of fun story. This is the only card that I really sold when I was a kid. So this is a great buyback that I had. That
for those listening, it was McGuire rookie. Oh well.
Oh yeah,
we could debate that. Yeah, we could debate that. Some people will say the 87s is rookie. Most people, myself included, will say it's the 85 tops.
Absolutely, but this McGuire USA was so hot at the time.
Yeah,
and it had gone up so much in value for just a kid that had traded into one with some of my buddies or something. And I wanted a 10-speed to get around town, to get to basketball practice and not have to have my parents drive me or whatever. And so I went and sold this for $200 raw, because they were just people would just take them at the local card shop or whatever, and then use that money to buy a 10-speed. Well, raw, a copy probably just as good as this one. I went back and bought for like $4 3 years ago, just at a local card shop. So I thought that was a pretty good trade. There's a lot of time in there, but I got great use out of that bike. And I never really sold another card until I did get back into the hobby right around 2018. And my kid pulled me back in. That happened with Pokemon. He's currently a fourth grader, but at the time he was like first, second grade. All his buddies played Pokemon after school. It's still a thing. And he wanted better cards. He'd bought a few packs at the store, but he's like, I want to, my buddies have these cool cards. So I'm like, well, let's go to a card shop. I'm sure they have them. Looked it up, went to a shop. Half the shop had Pokemon. The other half had sports cards. And it just like lit something up in my brain. Like, wow, I haven't even really thought about this for years. And I completely abandoned him to look in the Pokemon and was just like diving through basketball card boxes. And just thought it was so cool because I never even got the chance to collect basketball cards. The little town I was in only had packs of baseball cards for the most part. And so I'm looking at football, basketball cards. And that day I bought my first graded card ever. And that was just a Kevin Garnett rookie.
Oh,
it's not the greatest
card.
Yeah, it's not a high-end card. It's a PSA 9 and it's slabbed. And, I just thought it was neat. I was learning about grading again. I thought, well, I got to get a KG because, again, I'm Minneapolis. And so I keep the KG and the Kirby at my desk all the time, but suddenly we're back in it and I'm trying to like connect with my son. So we're collecting Pokemon cards together and then also introducing him to collecting, some basketball cards. And I'm not very learned at that point, but I'm just enthusiastic going through dollar boxes, $10 boxes, looking in the showcases, just going to a few local LCSs at that point. And then I start looking for podcasts because I'm like, this is really fun. I want to learn more, and digging into places like Cardboard Chronicles, where they're talking about the really cool stuff, jambalayas and PMGs and then trying to find any content that I can. And it just seemed like I was totally wrong, but it seemed like everybody was so enthusiastic about these 90s inserts that I'm like, oh, that's got to be past its prime. So I didn't start with that, even though that's probably the cards I would have liked the most because I watched a ton of basketball in the 80s and 90s. I went vintage because I revere kind of history and legends. And I was picking up, George Mikan rookie, Bill Russell. I kind of made a checklist of all the GOATs that I'd want to have a card for. It was a pretty good decision because that stuff was underpriced too. Everything was. But, I really wish I kind of would have gone with my interests, which would have been the 80s, 90s basketball, Jordan. I'm a big LeBron fan, but I never went that heavy into basketball just because I thought it already popped off so much. And I was obviously totally wrong on that.
Yeah, but you still did all right getting those vintage Hall of Famers as well before they went, as we saw that stratosphere rocket up as well as everything else. So you can't win them all, but if you win most of them, right, that's the important thing. One thing I want to say about Kirby Puckett, I'm a New York City kid. Kirby Puckett I think he was revered by a lot of collectors and sports fans. Just played the game the right way. Not a lot of trash talking. Not very outspoken. One thing, he's not a physical specimen like let's say a Bo Jackson. Yet could still hit home runs. That could still track balls down in the outfield and crash into the fence and rob people. Still bat 300 and hit a bunch of home runs and just kind of looked like an ordinary guy, not I always use the Bo Jackson compare and like inspire people like, man, look at what that guy's doing like that. And maybe I can, as a kid, maybe I can make it, and great player, Hall of Famer, rest in peace. And I wasn't a Twins guy per se, but I was a Kirby guy just the same, just because of all those things I just said. But go ahead.
As a local, I'll tell you, he was always having fun. He always had a smile on his face, a wink for the crowd, and throwing balls to the kids in the crowd. And we would wait for him after the game and have him sign our bats or gloves for Little League. I never had him sign cards for some reason. I didn't even think about it. But, I always wanted him to sign. I had a signed glove, I had a signed bat, and I'd bring those and I'd, think that gave me extra power in the outfield or something. But, one thing that's cool about letting people know what you collect is like people just sometimes, buddies will send you cards. Yeah. That's a classic Kirby. But my friend Travis painted on that and painted Yam on it. That was pretty cool. But I think the first time I figured out that like letting people know what you're collecting can be a good idea was with when I was trying to chase down a George Mikan rookie, the 1948 Bowman basketball set as the first true basketball set of cards, and they're really cool because they're like a different form factor. Yeah, I've got some here. So I don't have the Mikan with me; it's in the vault. But that's the another 48 Bowman card. I like to keep some loose ones available just to like hold them because they're such like basketball doesn't have those true vintage cards, right? Like these are a weird form factor, a little bit smaller, really kind of stark red and blue colors, not a lot of coloration, but there's something really artistic about them at the same time. They remind you of classic baseball cards. So
it really just focuses on the subject on the card. It really draws you in to them. It's not necessary. It's not in action. It's a portrait. So you get to see them sort of in resting mode, if you will, and get a kind of a glimpse at who they really are, and like you said, the size of them. It's
well, the Mikan is in action. Actually, it's a shot of him kind of driving with the ball. So this is the one that I'm showing right now is the 96 kind of throwback with the auto on it. So I managed to grab one of those too. But
another quick break, but we'll be right back.
The Sports Card Shop is your small-town local card shop with a global reach. Located in New Buffalo, Michigan, the shop is one of the most accessible in the Midwest. In addition to being an authorized Panini direct dealer, the Sports Card Shop carries all major trading card brands, including Topps, Upper Deck, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and more. With all that new wax, 500,000 singles, and showcases full of graded cards, you're sure to find something great for your collection, whether you're just starting out or a seasoned collector. The Sports Card Shop is your one-stop shop. So call us, come see us, or visit us on the web and social media. Our phone number is 269-469-0140. Website is thesportscardshop@moco.com. The Sports Card Shop is part of the MoCo Retail Group, connecting sports, the hobby, and people around the world.
We are back with YamWax.
So I was going around the Twin Cities like looking for a 48 Mikan and asking every dealer in town. I'd go to the shows, I'd walk the shows, hey, got any Mikans? Because I really wanted one. I kind of made a goal to try to get one locally because I figured since he played with the Minneapolis Lakers, I'd be able to find one somewhere in Minnesota. I just thought it'd be a fun little adventure. And I ended up totally striking out in the end. But people got to know me as like the Mikan guy, and I'd show up at LCSs and people would have just cards for me. They weren't expensive or anything, but they're like, hey, I've got a Prism Mikan refractor that I just pulled and thought of you. So I just set that aside for you. And it'd just be like a random bunch of throwback cards, but it's really fun. And you get to know, like, because you're known for something, people are then trying to help you towards your goal or thinking of you when they run across, just cards they're happy to part with. But over the, I ended up picking up just a variety of things that way, a Pep and a Wheaties and, some Hall of Fame, like throwback patch cards and stuff and a lot of fun stuff.
Probably some stuff you didn't even know existed that other people had or picked up thinking of you. And that's a great point too, Corey. It's the beauty of the hobby, that community, and people kind of look out for each other. With me, my guy's Jackie Robinson, and every so often someone will send me some. And a lot of times I don't have them. There's stuff I don't have. Every once in a blue moon, honestly, is something I didn't know existed. I got something today from my friend Brad Bethune, the Texas card dude. His father recently passed away. Rest in peace, Mr. Bethune. And he went through his dad's collection, and he found he had a bunch of coins that were sold in Los Angeles, I think 1995. Still says $2.99 on it. And really sharp looking coin. I think I put it. Oh, it's right here. For those listening, won't see it, but a little glare there. But
no, that's really cool.
Yeah, just a cool piece that I didn't even know was around, and so now it'll go in the jacket collection. And so telling that story made me think about that, and that was just today. And I've had a young man from MoCo draw, a 19, I'm missing the 48 leaf Jackie, unfortunately, and I'm very unlikely I'm going to be acquiring it anytime in the near future. But this young man, Mr. Max, with colored pencils, drew and colored in a 48 leaf Jackie. Looks great. wrote 101 on the back and a little note to me, and sits on my desk here in a acrylic showcase, along with another card that we're going to talk about during the show as well. And that's stuff like that, Corey. Like you can't put a price on that. That card that young man drew and colored in, you're not going to find it any comps on it. It's not going to be on eBay. But what it means to me and the significance of it, I don't want to find it on eBay. And it's those stories, right, to me, and I'm sure you feel the same way with Mikins and other things, Kirby's. That stuff, you can't put a price on it. There's going to be stuff you're not going to sell. It's going to, whether it's on your desk or in a case behind your desk or wherever you display it, it's going to have that sentimental, priceless value. And that stuff, I don't think we always talk about that enough. You see plenty of pictures on social media of those 5, 6, 7-figure cars. Look what I just sold. Look what I just bought. And that's great too. I'm not besmirching that. That's that all is part of the hobby. But I love to see some of that handmade, custom-made stuff, because the detail that goes into some of that stuff with the artwork. We've seen card art take off in the last few years as well, and the detail that goes into those works. And I've had Card Killer and Donnie B make me special cards that are in this case on my desk here. One day I'm going to just do like a live video of this case. I talk about it every so often, but it's that stuff that they would take the time out of their day to think of me and design a card with a player that I'm fond of and give it to me and say, hey, thanks for what you do. And this is for you. And you've gotten it too. And I've given stuff as well. And I enjoy both. I love getting those kind of cards like that where someone puts in that time and work. It's not off a printing press, 10 sheets a minute. And it is something about that. And I love also giving stuff to other people as well, and just sort of being an ambassador, an advocate for the hobby. And you can't put a price on things like that. And you're not going to find, these cards that we get like that. We're not going to find those at the National in the showcase. They're going to be in our own personal showcase. And when we look at them, we'll remember who did it and why they did it, and that you meant enough to them for them to even take the time to do that for you. And it's something.
It's really amazing.
That.
There's the kids making them, exploring art. That's a cool thing, but showing appreciation. And we really do have some true artists in the hobby. Some guys who do amazing work. You mentioned them: Card Killer, Donnie B, Optimus Volts. The list goes on. And in that case, all the people or the people.
I usually don't try to name them because I'm going to leave somebody off, and they're going to be like, "Hey, you didn't. What about me?" So, but yeah, there's plenty. The Project 70, Project 2020 artists. Many I've had half of those on this show, and like you said, I think those folks are inspiring. Like you touched on. That younger generation to, hey, I can do this. I can design cards someday. Let me work on my skill now. Art is a skill. Art can be a trade, and you never know what can come from it. And it's great. I've always said cards are works of art, even before the card art thing really exploded. Some of those some of the cards you even talked about on the vintage side of basketball have a art feel. The 53 top set, even before that, a lot of them were portraits and stills. And so, photography is an art. I always say that too. We think, well, it has to be, watercolors or oil or acrylic paint. No, photography is a lost art too. How many times we see, I know someone was complaining about one of this week's Tops Now card. They got, I believe it was Lourdes Gurriel, and the shot was not a very good one. It doesn't show his number, and it doesn't show his face. And they were like, ragging on Tops, like, hey, couldn't you get a better photo to use for that Tops Now card? Like, I wanted to buy it, and then I saw the photo, and I'm not buying it now. Now, maybe a little bit nitpicky there, to each their own, but I did see the photo. After I read the rant, I'm like, well, let me see this card. I got to see someone. And it wasn't in all due respect, it wasn't a great shot. It would have been, if easy for me to play armchair tops, I probably would have said, hey, do we got a better photo where we see more of him, or at least a number? Like, it just, and but sometimes, they got deadlines. They're trying to get the cards out quick. There's a lot of other variables. And so I'll give him a little bit of a pass, but photography is a lost art too. I don't say a lost art, but photography is art as well. I've had Nick Wasika on the show, who's a sports card photographer, sports photographer. And I mean, they're there a couple hours before the game, doing research, learning numbers if they don't already know them. They got a list of subjects that they're assigned to capture in action. And, that action happens quick. If you're not on the ball, it's like hitting a fastball, right? Even when you know it's coming, batters still strike out. So even though they know who their subjects are, and I got to get some action shots today, maybe they don't catch all the shots, or maybe, some of the action's a little further away and they don't zoom in. So there's an art to that too. And so I always say, sports cards in general are all pieces of art, but when you see some of the customs that take it to that next level, it just always impresses me. I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience for that. I'd probably screw it up and then like throw it away, and then where they probably do that too, and then they start over and they're perfect. I just would get frustrated and then let it go, and just that'd be the end. So my dad is an artist. My son can draw very well. In fact, he's a huge Beatles kid, and he can do Beatles, the portraits of the 4 Beatles, like freehand. It's crazy, and I can barely draw a stick figure. So the gene skipped me, and my son got it. And there's a talent to that. As someone who can't draw and can't do any of that stuff, I appreciate those that can and those that do. I'm going to step aside to hear from one of our national sponsors, but we'll be right back. All right, back with more YamWax.
Well, we all have our art, right? We all have our genius. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that is, but you're right. Photography, very much so, is art. I agree. I love great photography. I spend a vast amount of time, like at county fairs, state fairs, when you go through the little photo area and there's all the different types of art here in Minnesota. It could be like corn beaded art and crazy stuff, but the photography is tremendous when it's great. And that's no different on cards. I think of a couple sets, like right away, the 1976 basketball set has amazing portraits in it. My favorite Kareem Abdul-Jabbar card, maybe some of my favorite photography of portraiture at least, is from that 76 set. I don't have one with me, but it's at PSA. Yep. But a lot of it is just the composition. You talked about the perfunctory things, like we need to get the number, his face. A true photographer would say, like, that stuff's not important if you could get some like moody shot of a shadow over the shoulder. Now, as sports fans, we don't want that. You have to hit the numbers, so that then limits your art too, right? But there's cool stuff. I was just looking at a card in front of me. I was gifted this card. It's a Will Smith, jamming with Will Smith card. And it's just like, you could not have a better shot of Will Smith, kind of just looking sideways, holding the basketball. He's at the All-Star game. And
getting jiggy with it? Is he getting jiggy with it? Right?
He's about to get jiggy with it for sure. And I love it, man. I love it. There's cool stuff, no matter if you're doing sports, you're doing, non-sport, all that kind of stuff. There's really neat art. You talked about being, generous in the hobby. I had a really good lesson for that, like right off the bat. So my son and I are collecting Pokemon cards together, a lot of first edition stuff when it was really cheap. We just go through dollar boxes or nickel boxes really and pull out any first edition Pokemon cards, and those kind of went nuts shortly after that. So he's got a nice stash of not perfect cards, but a couple hundred first edition 1999 base set cards. So it's really cool. But we happened to just stumble across a couple of these. It's a 1997 Tomy scratch pack. These are super, super scarce. And so I found a couple of those and inspired me. Like the art just looks so cool. They were like, hey, let's buy these. They're like $5 each, which is insane. They go for a few hundred a piece now. But wow. Yeah. And I was like, well, they're only in Japan. And then I got super hooked on like vintage Pokemon and the really old like Japanese Pokemon stuff, because I love history and I love art and has kind of all that in spades. But So I ended up importing this where like nobody else in the country, or only a couple other people, were really buying any of this stuff. So I'm importing it from Europe, from Asia, Japan mostly. And I end up with like, I don't know, 10 booster boxes of this stuff, but no one else like cares about it in the country. Not even the Pokemon collectors even know about it. So I'm like, this isn't any fun. You don't have a community if you're like one of, 3 people collecting. The other 2 people aren't even very social, So it was fun to have this like full set of Pokemon cards, to have a bunch of these, but I just started like mailing them to other guys that I interacted with, guys and girls that I interacted with in the Pokemon community, just be like, hey, you want a couple of packs? And I'd send out a few packs, and then they'd open them, kind of learn about them, get into them. Maybe they're buying some, but we're chatting about it. And suddenly, like I ended up giving away half of everything that I'd ever bought. And I don't, I think it was the greatest decision just in general, because, then I have other people that share this passion for it. And on top of it, I think it helped build the market. That wasn't my intention. It was more just like, I'm not going to sell this stuff, so I'm just going to give it to other people. And in doing so, like it kind of created a market for the product too. So, especially in the rare stuff like that, sharing with other people can get people enthusiastic. And then the best part is the community, but the bonus is that there's a real marketplace for it now.
You created awareness. The people that you sent it to probably saw it for the first time when they received it. They're like, what is this? And they researched it. And you created that. It's not an artificial buzz. It's a genuine buzz. But, if people don't know about something, then they find out about it. That's how something can sort of take off or garner interest. And I think that's important. I think it's important that you're sharing your love and passion for something with others, and it's driving their passion for it. Sometimes we don't know we have a passion for something till we do it, or it's in our hands and we see it and feel it, touch it type of thing. And so I think there's something to be said about that. You seem to have, and this is one thing I definitely wanted to touch on during today's episode, you have a knack, and it's a skill. I don't think it's luck. I don't think there's luck involved. You have a skill for kind of finding things before they get big. It's easy to find something after someone else has already, check this out. Look at this. You sort of get there before everyone, if it's like a race, you sort of get there first. Kind of talk about that mindset, when that started. Is it like a conscious effort to do that, or it just seems to work out that sort of way?
I don't know that's a conscious effort. Not usually. Maybe when I get bored, I'm not really thinking about like, how do I get ahead of the market? I'm just kind of thinking about like, what else is out there? What am I not thinking about? Right. And so I was doing basketball cards. I started collecting football cards. I didn't really want to do baseball. I did a little bit of hockey just because our shared friend Jeremy Lee is so enthusiastic about it. I picked a PC and Nathan McKinnon, and my oldest son is like 24. And, it's a way for me to connect with him. I collect that little bit of hockey, but then after that, it's like, where do we go? I really like the form factor of cards. I like having these 2.5 by 3.5 pieces of cardboard, slab it, and you still have that kind of conformity in your collection, easy to store, and all that. And I'm like, well, why not tennis? I had started looking into that last summer, and like I loved playing tennis. I loved like these classic matches with Agassi and Sampras and all that stuff, and then revere the current goats like Federer and Nadal, now Djokovic, but his stuff is insanely expensive. Serena, of course, she's like one of the best, possibly the best female athlete of all time. And so I saw these like obvious goats that were tens of dollars at most to buy some of those cards that are now worth thousands of dollars. But I wasn't like trying to get ahead. I'm just like, that'd be really cool to have a Federer card, and they're so cheap. Then I'm like, why don't I buy a couple of them? And so then that worked out great because now I can keep one and sell one. But I wasn't even thinking that. They're just like $20 for a Federer rookie that's, limited and numbered. Of course I'm going to grab a couple of those. And going through the paces of doing, say, football and basketball first, you started to learn about rarity and the importance of that. And I was networking with some guys that really cared about those things. So, that helped me where I wasn't just buying all the base cards of those tennis stars. I was trying to buy the elite cards, trying to find out like, okay, what is their best card? and like, let's go after that instead of just buying, just the easiest card to buy for a couple bucks. Like, let's buy the best one for $20-$30. And so I was doing, kind of taking that approach. But even then, like, looking back on it, if I was thinking monetarily, I would have bought 100 Federer cards. I was just thinking like, it'd be cool to have a couple Fed cards, couple Serenas, whatever. I definitely wish I'd bought more, but so you go through that pace, and then, and then it's like, well, what else is out there? Entertainment cards. And so then like, why not? Like, they're just really fun to have to, I don't know, what do I have in front of me? I've got, say, a Kurt Cobain card, 1994. This is one I actually just pulled with Donnie B on a live. The 1995 rock card, or 1994 rock cards. It's Kurt Cobain's rookie, and that's one that I just recently chased after. But like, Smells Like Teen Spirit came out 30 years ago this past week, and that was so important, man. Kurt Cobain. I was in high school, and when he passed, unfortunately, rest in peace. That was one of the biggest events, kind of my generation, and to be able to like fit that into the way that I like to collect, which is collecting cards. Like, other people might go out and collect the CD or try to pick up an autograph poster or something. But for me, I like trading cards. So I'm like, I want to get a Kurt Cobain card, and I ended up picking up a Nirvana card too. That's from 1995 Panini. It was just I talk about photography. Like, this 1995 Panini shot with Dave Grohl is just an amazing image. And that's that same set that has the 1995 Snoop Dogg rookie in it. So I don't think I'm necessarily like trying to think about being ahead in the process that I do it. It's just like, what else is there? What else interests me?
Your interests wind up taking you there. Speaking of that Nirvana card you just held up, would that be considered Dave Grohl's rookie? Like, I know it's not. Brains was the year earlier, just him on the card. Now, would we call this Dave Grohl's rookie card?
I think we'd call 1994 both Kurt and Grohl's rookie. I don't have the Grohl rookie yet.
Oh, he's in that
out of a pack. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, that's a weird thing with non-sport stuff. I would call it a rookie. The non-sport, that's an interesting question, John. Like, talking about rookies when it comes to things like non-sport, when it comes to wrestling, these guys don't have cards every year. The first year that, the first year that Cobain had a card, unfortunately, was the year that he passed. I do like this card in that he was probably alive when it was released, but it was shortly after that he left us. But so many people, their rookie is definitely not from their rookie year, their first year being pro necessarily. But I think of the card, when I call something a rookie card, I'm calling the card the rookie, the first, not their first professional year, right? So, but it is hard. Like, so, okay, this is an Argentina card in Spanish. There's more leeway where I don't know that, that might be called an XRC in sports if there happened to be some like random Luka released in Europe 2 years earlier before his NBA debut. But in non-sport, it's just kind of whenever the first card pops up seems to be a rookie. Some people might also call this a rookie too, because it's the first North American release in English and everything. But why should that matter? I don't know. I just think they're both cool cards, and I'm glad to have a couple early Nirvana cards. But yeah, other things come up like, okay, parody cards, a Garbage Pail Kids card that depicts, I don't know, Will Smith or something. If Will Smith had, before his rookie, he had a Garbage Pail Kid that didn't call him Will Smith, maybe called him like Bill Mrs. or I don't know, some, just ridiculous name they come up with. I generally don't consider that a rookie. I consider it a parody. It's not using his full name, not using his picture. So you do get into these debates even with that. Like, is that actually, their card? And so it's really a fun adventure. And you think you often know like what the rookie is, and then you find out it was something much earlier. Yeah. Like the Panini Snoop Dogg. I don't know if I have one. Here we go. Panini, for a long time, a lot of people this wasn't on their radar. The 1995 Snoop. And it's a sticker again. So like, does a sticker count? Well, it's a sticker that's like the size of a full-size card. So I think people accept it more. And it's so much earlier than anything else, where there's a 2013 Snoop Dogg from Panini HRX. But that's so much like further in the future. We're talking 18 years in the future to have like a stiff cardboard. So I think this is kind of getting adopted as a rookie, even though it's a sticker.
No, I agree with you. I think it's got to be the first decent size release. Now, if it's a company made it for all their employees for like at a Christmas party and there's 20 of them, that might be considered, that's just a scarce card. I think to me, the rookie card, especially on the non-sports end, is going to be their first appearance on whether it's a decent-sized sticker or a full-fledged card. And that's how I would view it. You got to set some sort of parameters. Quick break to pay a few bills, but we'll be right back.
Pastime Marketplace has a line of graded card cases that are waterproof, airtight, dust-tight, and hardened to protect and organize your valuable collection. Each of our cases come with pre-cut and pre-formed foam, so you don't have to cut and tear the foam when you get your case. The pre-cut foam inserts are sized to hold PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGS slabs. Store it all safely and securely with a case from Pastime Marketplace. Check them out at www.pastimemarketplace.com.
Sports Card Nation is back with YamWax. Well, you brought up a couple great points. Number one, with these non-sports issues, these celebrities, these musicians, actors, actresses, they don't make cards every year. These aren't like sports where they have a season and stats and that. They have their own things they're doing every year, but in the card, and let's be honest, they're not going to be as popular as a baseball or basketball or football card. So there's not a demand to do one necessarily every year. But I think that also lends to some of the nostalgia for it, because they weren't in demand at more. I think they're more in demand now after their release time than when they were actually issued. And how many of these things got thrown out, destroyed, and now we're going back. I give you a lot of credit for leading this charge. Now we're going back and trying to figure these things out, and you're doing a lot of that legwork. Like, hey, what's the and I think by you doing what you're doing too, Corey, other people are like, hey, how about this guy? I'm a fan of this guy. I'm a fan of this lady. I'm a Lady Gaga guy. I'll admit it, right? And you sent me what a copy of what's perceived to be her rookie card, and yep, there it is. You have one too. So that stuff, and that's fun. It's fun to kind of do the research and Google and let's be honest, and eBay and like what and then find maybe something sort of obscure, like the what did you say, the Cobain, the first one, Argentinian, you know what I mean? How that's not going to be an easy card to if you wanted to buy them all, that's going to be hard to do. And I love that. I love that pursuit. I love that hunt. I love the research. You've got me doing a little bit with certain folks, and I'm not as good as you. I'm more likely to ask you, hey, what do you think, or what do you say? But that's great, and it's bringing back some of those obscure cards that people probably forgot about, and now we can go back and say, hey. And there's people probably say, I remember those. I remember the Yo MTV Raps packs and opening some of those boxes and some of those things. And you can go back to a time period. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, there are certainly like just those little pockets of people that maybe had collected that, game or whatever that card comes out of. Now, you've brought up a couple of things that bring up a couple of points. One is great, grading. To me, that's important. Can I get this card graded? Is it licensed enough? Some of these are like semi-licensed, where they, maybe they got the rights to the photo or that they made their own designs or whatever, but they didn't license. They didn't get the rights from the person. Some of that doesn't matter after, say, 50 years. The card companies will still grade it.
Yeah.
But that's key, is being able to find out if you can get it graded. I have something in front of me right now, which I'm still not sure if I can get graded yet. I haven't tried it yet, but I have to work on it. And it also touches back on like getting known for something. So like being known for non-sport right now does have people, asking me questions, which I love to like dig in and try to help people, find rookies and stuff where I can, if I have the bandwidth. But people come to me with like, hey, have you seen this rookie? Or do you think this is the rookie? I'm like, holy cow, I never saw that before. And so like, that's what this is. So this, what I'm holding here is a Dynamite magazine it was made by Scholastic in 1978.
Yeah.
It has the Bee Gees and the Beatles on the cover. And this is going to blow you away, John. It's not the Beatles. It's not the Bee Gees that are in here. Inside of this set, they made some kind of like farcical trading cards. And so I'm opening up and showing the cards that are still inserted in there. They're perforated, so I'll have to tear it out to actually like get it graded. But there's a gentleman here who goes by the name of Motormouth. He's like a DJ. But the person representing that guy is Howard Stern. Howard Stern doesn't really have cards that I know of, certainly not from 1978. And so again, this is a stretch. Like, it doesn't use his real name. But man, when like it's that early and that far ahead of anything, or even, I don't even know if he has cards again, like to have a 1978 Howard Stern. And so like that's a big thing on my list right now, is to start working on a video, go through that whole checklist of cards, send that to PSA, see if they'll grade it. Because I would love to have a 1978 Howard Stern. I have a 1978 Howard Stern rookie, but I'll feel really good about calling it the rookie if, say, PSA and or SGC will grade it.
Yeah, the Howard Stern Motormouth rookie. Who knew, right? Who knew?
Right.
Everyone's looking at the cover. Oh, the Bee Gees, the the Beatles, right? And inside is a hidden gem. That's truly called a hidden gem. You think the cover, is the masterpiece, yet there's a bigger one obscurely hidden inside. And those are the stories, Corey, and I remember stuff, every 2 weeks, I believe it was, I got the order form, the Scholastic order form, and you'd bring it home and like, hey, I want this, and I can't get everything, pick one or two, and it, that stuff just, it takes you back to if you're a kid, a time when you no bills and no problems and just having fun every day, and we can't go back for real. So to kind of go back, in memories is always fun. And, again, how many, you just showed that magazine with the Motormouth Howard Stern rookie. How many of those at this point exist? You know what I mean? How do we, there could be very few. I don't know how many of those they even printed of that Dynamite magazine. That's the first thing. How many actually were printed at the time of release, and then how many lasted? Here we are 43 years later, right? How many survived that 43-year journey? In your case, they're still intact in the book at this point, and so. Yeah.
But even mine are a little wrinkled. I'm trying to shoot for a nice clean one. But that's exactly right, John. Like these, even if there was a high print run of that magazine, maybe let's say 12,000, 20,000, 50,000, who knows how many remain, dozens. Yeah. We don't really know exactly. But I mean, I was a Boy Scout. We did magazine pickup drives, right? And they'd drop you off in a block and you go around knocking on doors to pick up magazines to help get some money for your troop and that kind of stuff.
All right, folks, that is this first half of that great conversation I had with Corey, YamWax. I didn't want to make a super huge long episode, so we're going to run the second half next week, about the same length as this one, maybe a little bit less. I tried to edit it where its content's equal on both sides, but might be a little shorter next week, but didn't want to cut anything out. I know sometimes other shows will edit stuff out completely. I don't like to do that. So we'll be back with more Corey next week with the conclusion of this conversation. Quick commercial, and then we'll be back with my closing thoughts.
Hey everybody, have you heard about Collectible? It's the one-stop shop where any collector can buy and trade affordable shares in some of the most rare and valuable sports cards and memorabilia in the world, starting from just $5. From 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10s and Wilt Chamberlain's iconic rookie uniform to one-of-one Patrick Mahomes RPAs, rare LeBron James logo mats, and everything in between, Collectible is creating never-before-seen access and opportunities for investing in the hobby. Just download the app and sign up with the referral code SCN to get your first share free. Please note this is not a recommendation or solicitation to buy any security. All investment decisions should be undertaken after doing your own research.
That's going to do it for episode 145 of the Sports Card Nation. Thank you out there who listen to the show and make it everything it is and more. Without you, can't be here doing this, and I appreciate that. Thank you to my guest today, Corey Donovan, YamWax. Part 1 of our great conversation. Part 2 will continue next week on episode 146. Hope everyone's doing well and continues to do well. And we're going to keep this closing short and sweet. But again, YamWax is back next week, and we'll see you then. Take care. Say goodnight, Kane.